Let's give
Hari.
Kripamaya Prabhu a big Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Thank you again for all of your presence here today. I'll just begin with a prayer to my spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Buddhale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gordhavani Bhajarani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachadi Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Panchakalpa Tubascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Itanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's indeed a great honor to be in the presence of so many wonderful devotees. Actually, if you walk through the door next to the temple, there's a little fire extinguisher. In fact, on the way here today, there was a fire on Santa Fe Avenue. 6 fire trucks had their hoses out. House was on fire. Anyway, so if you look at the fire extinguisher, it's been inspected and it says Texas Krishnas. So we are acknowledged by the government as the Texas Krishnas. So I'm very happy to be with so many Texas Krishnas. And like, sure. That's one of the things that we learn in Krishna consciousness, is to embrace the unexpected. It helps to remind us that we're not in control. Otherwise, if things always went along as the way we think they should go, then we become very complacent. But the unexpected is what helps us cry out, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It was so beautiful before coming into the temple. All the devotees were seated together, and they're all chanting the Maha Mantra. So you get the sense of how important it is to chant the holy names. So I'd like to first introduce. Of course, my name is Kripamaya Das. But before becoming a devotee, I was born in America, in the West, and Kripa is a name for, Kripamaya is a name for Krishna. Kripa means mercy, Maya means energy, and Das means servant. Is anyone here for the first time? Yes? First time? Okay. May I ask your good name? Krishna. Oh, that's what you're, Krishna. I couldn't see you because of the light. Well, the second Krishna. And there's one more Krishna from Nepal. Oh my God, Hare Krishna. So that we're surrounded by Krishnas today. So this is like in the tradition in Nepal and India to name the children after the name of God. So similarly in the West, we also had that tradition. Like my birth name, I had no choice in the matter. None of us do. Was John from the Bible. So it's a biblical name. John was one of the 12 apostles. Do I have any Western-born devotees that have Western names? Megan, does that have any biblical? Elizabeth, so from the Bible. So all these names that we were given by many of us were to help us, remind us of God and our relationship to God. My brother, he's lived here in Dallas for 20 years. He was a Presbyterian minister. His name was David. He was the Presbyterian minister in Flower Mound. So all these names are important because they connect us to God. And today I'd like to share with you, I have a few notes here I'm going to be glancing off and on. Is that when we take on a new name, like the devotees here, we took initiation from Srila Prabhupada. It was symbolic of a new birth, of joining a new family. So we've all become part of the Das family. We're all servants of the Lord. And actually, everyone's a servant of the Lord. And we all came together because of the wonderful preaching and life example of Srila Prabhupada. He's, for the Hare Krishna movement, he's our spiritual father. For many of you, he's our spiritual grandfather, like that. And what's so amazing is that Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, in the history, this is actually in the history of recorded human civilization. Within an 11-year period, Srila Prabhupada wrote the largest number of spiritual books. In a period of 11 years, he wrote over 80 books glorifying Krishna. No one else has ever done that in the history of mankind. And not only did he do that in such a short period of time, he did it at the age of from 70 to 81, or 80, to when he left this world. And most of us, when we hit the 70s, we're ready to retire. Right? We're looking for an assisted living facility. But it was just the opposite. And not only that, he wrote these 80 books when he was at night, when most devotees were sleeping. He was up dictating and translating these Vedic literatures into English. Who can imagine what an incredible feat? And not only that, during the day, he opened up over 100 temples around the world. He had correspondence with thousands of devotees. It wasn't like he stayed up at night and translated and slept during the day. No, he was fully engaged in Krishna's service, 24/7. So we're very, very grateful for all of us, especially in the Hare Krishna movement, to have such a wonderful example of spirituality. So I'd like to begin with I'm not allowed to say this, but there's a very dear family member of mine who was born today, but I'm not going to mention any names, okay? I promised I would not mention any names. But the only reason why I mention it is because Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter on that same day in 1970. And I'd like to read to you a few excerpts from this letter. This is a letter to Shama Sundar. Okay? And when reading this letter, it gave great inspiration. He says, "My dear Shama Sundar, I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter and of March 8th, 1970, along with the Govindam record. So the record is so nice, and I am playing it. So there's every day when you come to the temple, there's a playing of this Govinda record. It's the Govindam prayers that was sung by Lord Brahma at the beginning of creation. And Srila Prabhupada says, when I hear this record, tears, he says, is giving so much transcendental pleasure that when I'm listening to it, I have tears in my eyes. So I'm just thinking now, whenever we hear this record, we can meditate on that. These beautiful prayers goes Govindam Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam. And then later on in the letter, he talks about he is anticipating that many people will come to the temples. So he's asking Shama Sundar to put up in the temple, put up a barrier so new people, when they come, if they don't want to take their shoes off, they can still come in, but they can't go past the barrier. So he said, see if you can do this. I'll have a movable barrier. And then the last mention in the letter, he says, so after this Govindam record, the next song you can record is Jai Jagadish Hare, the prayers by Jayadev Goswami. And this letter was written on March 8th, and just about 20 days earlier, he gave a whole lecture about the Das Avatar in Los Angeles. And so Srila Prabhupada said, so we shall make a children's book, with 10 pictures of Krishna's different appearances and a short story or explanation for each avatar. So during COVID, my wife and I, we were like the rest of the world. We were living in isolation, semi-isolation. So she was at that time in the same predicament. So she decided to, when she heard this letter, she decided to take these stories of Jayadev Goswami and make them into a book. So today is also the birthday of this book. So the format, so this is a little bit of a different format than normally we have at our Sunday feast programs. But what we're going to do is we're going to share with you some songs from the Das Avatar. It was written by, I mentioned earlier, by Jayadev Goswami. He appeared about 700 years before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he wrote this book called the Gita Govinda, which is, Srila Prabhupada explains, is famous all over the world. And this divine Sanskrit poetry about Krishna's flute playing. And so this prayer, the Das Avatar Stotram, it was written by him. And so what we did is during COVID, we took the opportunity to put this into English poetry and add it to a song. So what we'll do is we'd like to invite you all to sing along. Right? We'll have the words up on the screen, and then we'll derive some life lessons. How each of these avatars can help us in our spiritual life. So we shall begin with the first avatar. Then, after we sing the song, we will have one of the devotees here can come up and let me see. We have a chair for you. Oh, we have a mic. Okay. Yeah, so everyone can see you, and they will read one of the stories to you. Does that sound like a okay plan? Okay. Okay. Can I hear that a little more? Haribo. Okay. Now I feel confident. Thank you. So we can sing together. Pralaya payodi jale chitivan asivedam vihita vihicha charitram akedam keshavadita mina sagarira jai jagadishare jai jagadishare jai jagadishare Mina Sasira Jai Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare. O Lord, you assumed a fish-like form at the time of devastation to rescue the Vedas from a storm. And for their preservation, you pulled us in a boat through the hurricane that swept across the cosmic sea as you were pounding by the rain. In this first incarnation, Matsya was your name. Jagadi Shai Keshavadrita Minasya Jai Jagadi Shani. So now we'd like to ask Krishna Priya to come forward and read from this first avatar. And the pictures in the book are on the screen.
Long ago, while the wise King Satya Long ago, while the wise King Satya was bathing in the river, he scooped up some water to drink and saw a tiny golden fish. The king was about to put the fish back into the river when a soft voice startled him. "Oh, king, please don't put me back into the water. I'm afraid a big fish will eat me." The king felt sorry for the little fish, so he put him in a jug and brought him back to the palace. The next morning, cries for help awakened King Satya. He hurried over to see a fish squished up against the sides of a jug, gasping and crying, "Oh, king, help me, I can't move." Concerned, King Satya brought him to a well near the palace. As soon as the fish touched the water, he grew and grew and grew. "Oh, king, help me, I need more space," the fish pleaded. King Satya struggled to bring the fish to the lake. The fish slipped into the lake and grew and grew and grew. "Oh, king, help me, I need more room," said the fish as he squirmed about. The exhausted king stared in disbelief and arranged for many men to transfer the mystical fish to the ocean. But before King Satya could rest, the fish wailed, "Oh, king, help me! I'm afraid of the sharks." The king threw both hands in the air. "Who are you? What do you want?" The fish smiled. "My dear king, I am Matsya, an avatar of Lord Vishnu. In 7 days, dark clouds will cover the skies, the seas will overflow, and hurricanes will create fierce waves that flood the earth. This great flood will cleanse the world and mark the beginning of a new era." King Satya fell to his knees. "Oh Lord, how can I help you?" Matsya continued, "I want you to assist me during this great flood. I will bring you a large boat. Fill the boat with all types of seeds and herbs. Gather the insects, birds, mammals, and humans. Lead them all aboard. Using my serpent Vasuki as a rope, attach the boat to my horn." When the boat arrived, the king began to gather the different species. After everyone was safely aboard, the skies darkened, the waters rose, and fierce winds began roaring and tossing the boat about. Amidst the chaos, Lord Matsya spoke the Vedas to the king and the sages. They memorized and preserved this wisdom for future generations. When the flood receded and the storm subsided, the king guided everyone to shore. Though the king, the sages, the people, and even the animals were relieved the storm was over, they were sad to see Lord Matsya swim away. King Satya folded his hands and said, "Thank you, Lord, for the wonderful adventure." In the new era, King Satya guided mankind with wisdom from the Vedas. So we won't have time for all
10 lessons from the Das Avatars, but I'd like to cover a few of them. And I have to be very honest with you. This is somewhat of an emotional moment in my life, because my wife has been working on this book for a long time. And my daughter did the graphic design for this, so it's somewhat a special moment for me personally. So I hope you'll forgive me if I get too emotional. But so what can we learn? There's many lessons we can learn. This Matsya avatar is described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one thing we can learn is that in this pastime, King Satyavrata, he gathered together all the sages who were effulgent and were vastly learned. And they were listening to Matsya speak the Vedas. So here we see that sometimes in life, life is just like sometimes there's so many challenges in life, and we see in the world today there's so many challenges. Just like in the time of the appearance of the Matsya avatar, there was the waters of devastation were flowing throughout the universe, and the waves were crashing, and the storm clouds were thundering. So there was so much tribulation. But the Lord was very keen on maintaining this Vedic knowledge, because it is by knowledge, by understanding our relationship to God, that we can rise above the turbulent sea of the age of Kali that we live in. So one of the lessons we can learn is to prioritize our lives in such a way that we always give ourselves an opportunity to hear and to chant the glories of the Lord. And also to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Just like we all have right now in our chest, we all have something in common. So our heart is beating, right? Everyone has a beating. Does anyone here not have a beating heart? If you do, Hare Krishna. But in this beating heart, right, it goes through different cycles. It goes through the contraction phase and the relaxation phase. And when the heart relaxes, what happens is that the chambers of the heart are almost completely empty, and they receive the blood from the body. And then when the heart chambers contract, then it pushes that blood. Some of the blood goes to the lungs to get oxygenated, and some of the blood goes to the rest of the body to nourish the cells. So in the same way in our lives, we need to take up some time where our minds are relaxed and we're not thinking about all of our problems, all of our challenges, but we're just receiving the spiritual oxygen of Krishna's holy names. And this is one devotee, her name is Prabhupada Priya. She gave a class this morning, a couple of days ago. She said that by doing this, it gives us the clarity by which we can confront the situations that we deal with in life. And actually, Manjari Gopika Prabhu was saying in the class a couple of days ago that, and by doing this, if we, just like when you're swimming, right? He said, stay in your lane, right? You keep a focus, just like swimmers. You notice they have like Olympic-sized swimming pool. They have actually 10 lanes, but only 8 of them are used for swimming. So while you're swimming, you can't be worried about what the other swimmer is doing in the other lane. You can't think, oh, maybe this lane over here is better. Let me go check this lane out. You can't be switching lanes back and forth. You have to focus. And that's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So we have to spend some time of our days in order to rise above the turbulence of this age that we live in, just to focus, have one pointed attention on the process of hearing. Just like the heart has to empty of blood, so we have to empty ourselves and hear attentively the holy names. Actually, I had a devotee, his name was Param Brahma Das, and he used to be the temple president in one of our temples that I served in. And he used to say, I got people to chant Hare Krishna even before I became a devotee. I said, how was that? He says, well, my name was Paul, and I used to be a swimmer. When I was swimming, everyone would say, go Paul, go Paul! So, he was very focused. And actually Krishna was very kind to him. He did pass away from this world, but he had a glorious passing. When he passed away in his sleep with the Bhagavad Gita on his chest. So, that is our prayers, that when we leave this world, we're able to be meditating on the different names of the Lord, different pastimes of the Lord, different instructions of the Lord. So now I'd like to go on to the next avatar, and this is we'll sing the song like we did before. Keshavatavita Komasasira Jai Jagatisha Hare Jai Jagatisha Hare Jai Jagatisha Hare Keshavatavita Komasasira Jai Jagatisha Hare Jai Jagatisha Hare Lord came as a great tortoise to help your devotees churn the white ocean of milk with the serpent Vasuki. You lifted a mountain on your back when your tortoise shell became. We can sing together if you like. Embedded with a scar, you felt like judgment instead of pain. In this incarnation, was your name. So beautifully, I just want to keep going on. Forget about the talk. So, we'd like to now ask Manjari Gopika Prabhu to come forward and read to us this beautiful pastime.
Throughout the universe, there was a struggle between good and evil. King Indra and the demigods were the rulers, but King Bali and his army of demons were always scheming how to usurp control.
When the demons heard a sage had cursed King Indra to lose his powers, they immediately attacked and conquered the demigods. In desperation, the demigods fled the heavens and sought guidance from Lord Vishnu at the ocean of milk. The all-knowing Lord appeared and told them, "To regain power, you must extract the nectar of immortality by churning the ocean of milk. You will need to recruit the demons to assist you." Before the Lord disappeared, he warned, Don't be greedy for the treasures, be patient for the nectar. Reluctantly, King Indra approached King Bali and said, "The nectar of immortality gives eternal life. We promise if you help us extract the nectar, we will divide it equally." King Bali smiled at the other demons and then agreed. Lord Vishnu helped the demigods and the demons organize the churning of the milk ocean. First, Lord Vishnu uprooted Mount Mandara and placed it into the ocean to be a churning rod. Then he asked the serpent Vasuki to coil around the mountain and act as a rope for churning. The demigods held Vasuki's tail, and the demons held his head. They pulled the serpent rope back and forth. Everyone loudly cheered as the mountain swirled and the ocean churned. But enthusiasm turned to panic when the mountain began to sink. To remedy this, Lord Vishnu assumed the form of an enormous tortoise named Kurma. Kurma dove into the water, lifted the mountain, and balanced it on his back. Again, they began to churn. The milky ocean frothed and foamed. Dazzling jewels, celestial animals, and heavenly goddesses arose from the water. The demigods watched as the demons grabbed the treasures for themselves. At last, the god of medicine emerged, holding the pot of nectar in his hands. The demons seized the nectar and carried it away. Feeling betrayed, the demigods hung their heads in despair. But a quarrel arose among the demons. They angrily shouted at each other, "I will drink first. No, I must get the first sip." Unexpectedly, an enchanting heavenly goddess, Mohini, appeared amidst the chaos. The demons stopped fighting. Spellbound by her beauty, they asked, "Gorgeous goddess, end our dispute by dividing the nectar." "Only if you promised not to disagree with how I divide it," she said. They eagerly agreed. Mohini walked over and distributed all the nectar to the demigods as the demons watched. She revealed she was Lord Vishnu in disguise. Outraged by the trick, the demons attacked the gods. Invigorated by the nectar of immortality, the demigods easily defeated them. Lord Indra and the demigods thanked Lord Vishnu for his guidance and returned to the heavens victorious. The cosmic order was restored.
Avatar ki. So, here again, there are many lessons we can learn. For myself personally, I found that what I loved about this pastime is how the demons became so powerful that actually Lord Vishnu advised the demigods to make a truce with the demons. So just like Krishna says, for one who's conquered the mind is his best of friends. For one who's unable to do so, the mind is the greatest enemy. So, and who here ever has trouble from their mind? Okay, I don't feel so alone then. The mind is not our best friend sometimes because we cannot control it. So, one way, rather than try to beat up the mind, is to make friends with the mind, to make a truce. Say, look, my dear mind, I know you have many things to think about. You have many desires to fulfill, mountains to climb, continents to conquer. But at least for this period of time during the day, when we can designate, just like we spoke earlier about the Matsya Avatar, prioritizing some portion of our day to simply hear. And then we make this truce with the mind. Actually, there's a beautiful verse I have on the board here. It says, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures. So just like Lord Matsya, all the Vedas were recited when he was pulling the boat through the ocean of devastation. Similarly, the essence of the Vedic literatures is Srimad Bhagavatam. And we encourage everyone, if you have not already come in contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam, to please take an opportunity to look into this, explore this great scripture, because it synthesizes all the teachings of all the Vedas. To read all the Vedas would take such a long time. But if we focus on this one scripture, we'll get the benefit of reading all the Vedas. So, by coming together and associating with devotees, and by hearing the Bhagavatam, it's like churning the ocean of milk, and all the nectar of immortality, the realization of our relationship to Krishna and our relationship to all living beings will become revealed. So moving along, before we continue, does anyone have any thoughts or reflections or questions about the avatars we discussed so far? I have a question. Isn't this just all mythology? I mean, come on. You mean to tell me that God comes as a tortoise? And then they put a mountain on his back? I mean, these sound like tall tales. Or that the universe fills up with water and the Lord becomes a fish? I mean, how can anyone, any rational human being believe these things? Right? This is what people will say, right? Has anyone ever heard this argument before? Well, I know that if you start to think about it deeply and not just superficially, Srila Prabhupada would always bring things back to the basic point. Because these are actually very, very advanced literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's actually recommended before you even touch Srimad Bhagavatam. You first read the Bhagavad Gita. You first understand the philosophy. Then, once you understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, then you can understand these pastimes in their proper context. The problem is in this age, we are thinking that order comes from disorder. We think that life comes from a combination of random chemicals coming together. And this is what we've been taught from the very beginning of our education, to believe that life comes from matter. But Srila Prabhupada was very insistent on the understanding that actually life comes from life. Order comes from order. Without intelligence, there cannot be any life. Just like he used the example, if you go to a river and you see there's particles of gold, dust in the river, then you can understand that there's a gold mine, upstream. So in the same way, has anyone looked for gold before in a river? Well, if you ever decide to do this, there's one tip that geologists will give you. So you're looking for gold particles. You have to look. Where would you look? If you go to a river to look for gold, where would you look? You would look where the water slows down. Because particles of gold are heavier than water. So if you go to the bend of the river, you'll see that was the first place you look. You look behind a rock where the water is still. So this is an analogy to help us understand that if we still the mind, if the mind becomes still, becomes quiet, through this process of hearing and chanting, then we start developing a higher perception. Just like in this material universe. Take, for example, now in quantum physics, we're learning how scientists have realized that what applies in this realm of existence does not apply in the quantum level, on the level of the atoms and the molecules. Take, for example, right now, you see there's 2 doors to a temple room, right? Can you walk through both doors simultaneously? No. Right. But on the quantum level, you can take a type of gun that will shoot photons at let's say the screen there has 2 slits in it, right? And let's say behind that screen is another screen where a detector screen. So you can fire a photon into that screen, and the photons will go in both slits simultaneously. See, if they went through one, if the photons were like bullets and just went through one slit, okay, then if you look at the detector screen, you'd see 2 bands of bullets, right? But when they shoot photons, they see it's a wave band behind on the screen. That they've gone through both slits simultaneously at the same time. Or take, for example, right now, how far is it from here to Houston? 4 or 5 hours. Okay, so maybe what? 500 miles or 300 miles. Okay, so 300 miles to Houston. So how far is it from here to New York City? Like maybe 2,000, 3,000 miles, right? Now, from our perspective on this realm, that's a big difference. From here to Houston, as compared to New York or to India. Right? From the perspective of infinity, what's the difference? From the perspective of infinity, the difference between here and Houston and here in New York City is insignificant. They're both the same percentage. It's the same percentage from the perspective of infinity. So it's how we view the universe is dependent upon the perspective that we have. And so if we're seeing the universe, just like this one poet, William Blake, he said, "This life's dim windows of the soul," referring to the eyes. "This life's dim windows of the soul distorts the heaven from pole to pole, and make us to believe in a lie when we see with and not through the eye." In other words, the process of Krishna consciousness, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter, those with the vision of eternity see that the soul is eternal, transcendental, and beyond the modes of material nature. Despite coming in contact with the modes of material nature, the soul does not do anything, nor is entangled. So because of lack of vision, we see in the world today, due to lack of proper education, just like in this pastime of Kurma Avatar, the demons, they wanted to, first Lord Vishnu took the head of the snake, the demigods, and the demons took the tail. And they were thinking, the demons were thinking, wait a minute, we don't want to take the tail, we want to take the head. We're being cheated here. So they took the head of the serpent Vasuki, and the demigods took the tail. So Srila Prabhupada explains that is the nature in this world, that those who have demonic mentality are always arguing with the scripture. And they are, just like right now, we see in the world today, there's so much difficulty amongst nations now where people are so conscious now of how at any moment we can become, involved in a great war. Is that my phone? Oh my God. I am. Can you just tell them to call back? So sorry about that. I did not follow the instructions. Because of this Bali designation, we're thinking that I'm American, I am Iranian, I am Hindu, I am Muslim, I am black, I am white. Because we have this designation of I am this body, there's so much turmoil in the world today. So our process of Krishna consciousness, this chanting of the holy names, frees us from that misconception of thinking we are this body. So I think we maybe have one more time, a little more time to do one more avatar. And this will be the avatar of Varahadev. Vasati Shana Shikare Tarani Tamalana Sashami Kakakakadeva Nimana Keshavadri Tata Surugarupa Jai Jagadeesha Jai Jagadeesha Jai Jagadeesha Keshavadri Tata Surugarupa Jai Jagadeesha Jai Jagadeesha Lord, you take the earth up the winds to the cosmic ocean, Lord. On the tip of a disc in the form of a ball, the earth looked like a spot on the moon as the demigods came and circled round your dancing throne. In this celestial airways, in this
Lord Graha, or Avatar. The creator of the universe, Lord Brahma, and the sages looked down from the heavens. They heard cries of terror from the goddess of the earth. Her planet was tumbling into the cosmic ocean. The evil demon Hiranyaksha had plundered all the gold from the earth and thrown her planet out of orbit. What can be done? The earth is in great danger, the sages cried. Lord Brahma prayed to Lord Vishnu for help. Moments later, he experienced an itching sensation in his nose. From his nostril came a tiny boar, smaller than the tip of a thumb. Immediately the boar flew up into the sky. Lord Brahma and the sages stared upward and gasped. The boar roared louder and louder. He grew bigger and bigger until he covered the entire sky. What's going on? The sages questioned. Lord Brahma thrust his arms toward the sky and announced, "This is Lord Vishnu's divine avatar, Varahadev." The divine boar plunged into the ocean. He lifted the earth with his tusks and rose to the water's surface. Upon seeing Lord Varaha, Hiranyaksha shouted, "The earth is mine! I will destroy you and make the demons proud." But the Lord spun around and thrust the earth back into orbit. He glanced at the earth. The earth planet began to float again. Quick, like a cobra, the demon attacked Lord Varaha with his mace. But the Lord stepped back. After many hours of battle, the demon feared defeat and conjured up black magic. The heavens filled with dark clouds, fierce winds blew, spears of lightning flashed, and thunder exploded. The sky rained blood, pus, and urine. The sages pleaded, "The demons become the strongest in twilight. The time is fast approaching. O Lord, please slay this demon." The Lord smiled at the sages and called his disc weapon. He spun his razor-sharp disc to dispel the black magic. Then he slapped the base of Hiranyaksha's ear. Hiranyaksha fell down, dead, like a huge tree uprooted by the wind. Lord Brahma and the sages showered Varaha with flowers. They offered prayers of gratitude to him for saving the earth. Lord Varaha lovingly accepted their offerings. Mother Earth was now able to nurture her plants and animals again. Having fulfilled his mission, Lord Varaha returned to the spiritual world.
So there's no problem in the world too big for Krishna. Doesn't matter how far we are flung into the ocean of despair. Krishna is so full of love. He's so full of compassion that he can lift us out of that depression simply by, he makes himself so easily accessible with his holy name. So we were speaking earlier about how the idea of in modern society, how we're thinking we are conditioned to think we're this body. We can see now that man has become very proud of his ability to create technological wonders. This is actually a form of intoxication. This hubris that man has developed, that by creating so many advanced technologies, but we are losing our ability to communicate with each other. Just like the other day, I took some clothing to a Salvation Army store. And the devotee had given class this morning in the temple and encouraged us to go out and give Krishna consciousness to everyone. So it reminded me, about 40 years ago, I was distributing some books, and I met this gentleman who was pretending, who was dressed up like this famous restaurant owner, Colonel Sanders. And I gave him a book, and I said, "Please take this Bhattacharya magazine with you." And he said, No. And I said, "Well, can you at least say Hare Krishna?" He says, No. I said, "Can you at least say Gaur Nitai?" He went, Gaur Nitai. So after this devotee gave this class, I thought, well, let me try this. So I gave some clothing to the Salvation Army. And after I said to the manager, "Can you do me a small favor?" I said, "Sure, what's that?" "Can you say Gaur Nitai?" And he said, "Gaur Nitai?" I said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, it's an unconditional prayer for peace and happiness." So he said, So it happened there was a security guard nearby. He didn't call him over to kick me out, But this security guard was very religious, was very spiritual. He said, "Hey, come, Salzmar." He was from Iran, right? And he had a gun in his holster. And he came over, and Salzmar says, I said to Salzmar, "Can you say Gornatai?" He says, "Gornatai?" And then we started talking about, he says, "What is that? Is that Greek?" He says, "No, it's not Greek. It's coming from, it's transcendental." I didn't say it's like coming from India, because actually the names of God aren't coming from India, right? Just like when the sun rises in the morning, right? You don't say it's an eastern sun, right? It's the sun. It's transcendental. It's beyond east and west. So the names of God are transcendental. So he said, "So what does that mean?" I said, "Well, it's an unconditional prayer for peace and happiness." He says, "That's what we need today." He was a Christian. He says, and he was from Iran. He says, I said, "Oh, you believe in Allah?" "Yes." No. So I'm a Christian, he said. But I said, any name of God can help us. So he started sharing with me his deep devotion to God. So at the end, I just opened my arms. I said, "Salzmar, can you give me a hug?" So we both hugged. And I've never hugged anyone with a gun, especially from Iran, especially in this time of age. But when we get to know people, people are just people. It doesn't matter if they're Iranian or Russian, Ukrainian. People are people. They're spirit souls, right? And this is one of the beautiful lessons that we can learn from the Varaha, from all the past, all the avatars, to learn to see that the Lord is in everyone's heart and is our ever well-wisher. So I'd just like to end on one thought. I can't see the clock. What time is it now? 17. So 17, 6:18. So it's time to close now. You all have been very patient and very. I can see by your faces absorbing the messages of the Bhagavatam, and I just like to meditate with you on the fact that all of us. Does anyone here like to eat bananas? Yeah. We have some banana eaters here. So when the banana is green, right? Is it good to eat? No. You have to wait for it to get ripe, right? And when it becomes ripe, then you can peel the banana and you can savor it, So in the same way, if we take to this process of Krishna consciousness, by nature we are very sweet, but we have to remain in the sun. We have to remain in the sunshine of God's holy names. We have to remain in the sunshine of associating with the Lord's devotees. We have to remain in the sunshine of hearing the Vedas, the Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, we become ripe. And then when the banana becomes ripe, what happens? You can peel it, right? So right now we have all these different skins of identities. Like we said earlier, I'm Iranian, I'm black, I'm Hindu, I'm Christian. But when we become lovers of God, we give up these temporary designations and we can become an offering. Our consciousness becomes an offering to the Supreme Lord. So I'd like to thank you all so much for your kind attention, and especially to thank the Krishnas who have come here for the first time. I know one Krishna has come all the way from Nepal, right? Yes. And where are you coming from, Prabhu? Local Dallas, right? But we're originally from the same place, from the spiritual world. That way we're all brothers and sisters. So are there any reflections, any questions, any comments, any corrections? Kartikeya Prabhu, I guess.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Wonderful, wonderful to have you. Sad because you're going to leave, but I knew you'll be back. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But anyway, you were talking about like you made the example of the protons and hitting two things at the same time, and how and how we get clarity according to our advancement. And I use these glasses. I need them. I needed to have them for long distance. I need to have them for reading. And many times I come and, I look at the deities, and with my glasses, they are very, they're not clear. So I cannot see the definition of the deities and the beauty of the clothes and everything. But when I put my glasses, it's like, oh wow, look at this. And I feel that Krishna consciousness is the same, okay? Because we not in the material world, we all live with eyes that we cannot see. But there are spiritual masters, when they give us initiations, they give us the glasses. And now with the glasses, wow, look, it's a whole new thing here. Oh, Krishna, how beautiful. So anyway, I just wanted to share that realization that I have.
Oh, thank you so much.
As you were speaking of that. Hare Krishna.
That's a beautiful realization. And that's what I love about coming together as devotees, because when someone speaks about Krishna, then it triggers thoughts that we have about Krishna. And then when we can share those, then the other persons will get another thought about Krishna. So it just keeps increasing. Like when you were speaking like that, it reminded me, yes, that's one of there's a 20th quality of the devotee, is Shastra Chakshush. He sees through the eyes of Scripture. So when we start seeing through the eyes of Scripture, rather than through the eyes of mental speculation, we can have this transcendental vision. 2020. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We know that we're not the body, but then in a lot of ways we kind of are. I mean, in the sense that if I asked anybody to show me where they're from, they would say, show their passport. So you were talking about the current war situation in the world. Where do devotees stand in relationship to their own country? Like, do we have any conflict amongst like Russian devotees or American devotees? Like what is I know that Prabhupada told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati that we have to have independence from India, from England. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, no, it doesn't depend on that. Krishna consciousness doesn't depend on the political situation. So what does the political situation have to do with Krishna consciousness? As we all have our own identification as, according to the country we're from.
Right, so we all have correct me if I'm wrong, but the question is, how should we act if we were living in a particular country? Should we, fight for that country? Should we go to war for that country? Should we identify with that country? Well, Srila Prabhupada taught us how to live in the world, but not be of the world. So we may have different obligations, cultural obligations, social obligations, But he used the example, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses the example of a woman who has a paramour. Okay? A woman who has a paramour, she may be always thinking about her paramour in her heart. Or likewise with a man, if he's always thinking he has a paramour, he's always thinking of her in his heart. But Vishwanath Chakravarti says, so if the woman has a paramour, she does everything very nicely, so her husband does not suspect that she has a paramour. So whatever our duties are in terms of social, that is not in conflict with the four Bhagavad principles. The devotee is encouraged to follow those. But in regards to the draft board, it just reminds me of a story of one devotee who had to go before the draft board. And he brought a Bhakti Guided magazine to show to the draft officer. And he was looking at the magazine. He was dressed in dhoti, tilak, and sika. And then when the draft officer came to the page of Lord Jagannath, right, he said, "What is this?" Those big eyes, the big smile. And the devotee said, "That is God." And when the draft officer heard this, he said, "I'm sorry, sir, but there's no room for you in this man's army." So we have to stick to our Krishna consciousness, our Krishna conscious principles, and Krishna will take care of us. But the point is that, we are in Krishna's army. And our weapons are the holy names. Our weapon is the scriptures. So even if we have to go to the army, then when we're in the army, what do? Whoever we see, whoever we meet, we tell them about Krishna. So wherever Krishna puts us, we see that as an opportunity to spread Krishna consciousness. Perhaps you have some further realizations on this topic. No? Would anyone else like to add to that? It's a very, very, very interesting question.
I'll try. Hare Krishna, thank you for the very nice class. I like the music, the guitar. It adds something to the whole process of it, but you reminded me of two things that I have to remember. It's resetting, you probably didn't say reset, but resetting the mind. The mind is so powerful, if you don't train it, it's going to go in whatever direction, wherever the major environment or the influences, that's where the mind's going to go. Very important. And the other thing is there's so much going on in the world right now. If we're into all the media, it's overwhelming us. And I think it's important to rise above it and take time out to meditate. So thank you for those 2 points. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So I think we need some time for announcements. Once again, thank you all for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki! Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki!
His Grace Kripamaya Prabhu ki! Let's all give Prabhu a big Haribo! Thank you so much, Prabhu. I'm really wishing that you didn't have to leave tomorrow and we could continue this class next Sunday. Just keep it going. It was so nice. I think we could have done it over 3 Sundays, actually. It was really wonderful.